If you want to help out and support the channel, there are a few things you can do. Go check out Flipside Gaming and use the promo code VOIDMAGE in all caps. This will get you 10% off all orders $10 or more. And if you go shopping on tcgplayer.com, go use my affiliate link in the description below. That way all purchases you make will go towards helping the channel. And lastly, go check out my Patreon. It's a more direct way that you can help the channel while also getting some more interaction. I appreciate all of your support. If you haven't already, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Hello everyone, welcome back to another Top 10 Commander video. This time I'm going to do the middle set of the original Innistrad block, Dark Ascension. I just want to change it up a bit. I'm not going in order of sets by year, just doing whatever I really feel like, just coming up with some ideas of sets and then pulling that off to some of my patrons. The majority of them did vote for Dark Ascension over sets like Scourge. In retrospect, maybe not the best options, but I think Dark Ascension was a pretty cool set. It gave you some interesting curse cards, while also some added support for vampires and zombies. Honorable mentions time, we have Diregraph Captain and Stromkirk Captain, just some good tribal creatures. Zombies and vampires tend to be pretty popular options if you want to go for tribal decks, giving an anthem to all of the creatures of that certain type, while also giving some good keywords. Never really hurts in a combat-focused deck. Drogskull Reaver, a really cool card, unfortunately not the most flexible. Blue doesn't really do life gain that well unless we're talking about Oloro. If it was in different colors, if it was black and white, it would see play in every black and white deck because most of those decks can include life gain pretty easily. It's good card draw and those triggers can be abusable. So, number 10 is Vault of the Archangel. Speaking of lifelink, we have a land here that you can pay 4 mana and tap it, so pretty much 5. Creatures you control gain Death Touch and lifelink until end of turn, which is a very underrated thing to have in your lands, which means that if you have no cards in your hand, if you don't really have anything else that you can play, you can at least give your creatures Death Touch and lifelink, swing, maybe kill some creatures that block, ultimately gain some life. Very good defensive card as well. Number 9 is Call to the Kindred, another very solid tribal card that could be thrown into every blue deck, whether it's Slivers, Merfolk, or if you want to play Changelings, that is another route you can go with. It is a little bit slow, but it does actually cheat creatures into play, which is well worth the wait. You're just waiting for your upkeep, but it is quite suspenseful if you already have a good board presence, and you're maybe 1 or 2 creatures away from actually dominating, and there are just a lot of decks that manipulate with creature types. Number 8 is Increasing Vengeance. Now I'm also going to shout out the other cards, the other increasing cards that have the flashback. Increasing Devotion is a good token producer, but it's kind of boring. That's all it really does, and it's only really going to be good if you have other things like anthems. Increasing Vengeance is going to allow you to take whatever instant and sorcery you want to and copy it. So if you really like Increasing Devotion, you can get another one of those. It also has the flashback cost, so if you want to do it again, you just have to pay a little bit more mana. But it's deadly to do this with things like wheels, so you can end up drawing even more cards, put even more cards into the graveyard. Copying burn spells is also really deadly. It's one of those things that's easy to overlook when building any kind of red deck, but there's just so much power in instants and sorceries, especially the ones with X in the cost that you can dump a bunch of mana into. Just paying a couple mana extra to get another one of those, it's so deadly. Number 7 is the Planeswalker Sorin, Lord of Innistrad. I've always liked this Sorin because you get an emblem that's pretty tame, but the potential to get multiples is really what sets him apart from other Planeswalkers. I think current ones that seem a bit lackluster. Probably would have been higher if I made this list a few years ago, but you get good solid abilities. You can make a token on the plus, +1 power anthem on the minus, and the alt is solid removal, allowing you to steal those cards that you destroy. The problem that I think a lot of Planeswalkers run into now is just generic good abilities, good loyalty abilities without much synergy. At least with the Anthem, the +1 power Anthem, you could have some kind of synergy if your deck also has other Anthems. Or even if you're running a Vampire deck, you get a Vampire token. But all in all, if you are going to consider this as just a good card in black and white, it is pretty much just that. And number 6 is Curse of Misfortunes. Probably the best curse from this set, and that was sort of the thing about curses that I left all of them off the list with the exception of this one, mostly because they're not as good on their own, whereas this one can end up tutoring for other curses, whatever you need to punish that same opponent. And if left alone, it's the perfect remedy for what ails the curse deck already, and that's speed, that's the ability to overwhelm. You see a lot of times in those curse decks, you might be able to get a few out, but you need to be able to keep the pressure on that same opponent. And for that, I think it's well deserving of this list. Number 5 is Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. Not a super complicated card. A lot of other cards that do something like this too, whether it's making non-creatures cost 1 more or all spells. The idea is Not necessarily stacks, because you're not taking anything from anybody, you're just making everything a little bit more expensive, which does complement stacks pretty well. But for just 2 mana, you have probably one of the more annoying cards to have to deal with in Commander. And it's not even just by itself, it's usually other decks it goes into. Things like Grand Arbiter Augustine, things like Gaddock Teague. It's not quite as scummy as Land Destruction. It could lock you out. And number 4, we have Flayer of the Hatebound. Really loved Undying, this whole idea that the creatures may not be super powerful, so letting them come back at least just once is a decent trade-off for whatever power they might lack. But in Flayer's case, you have power similar to things like Warstorm Surge, like Perforos, dealing damage equal to power, and the fact that you can target anything, planeswalkers, opponents, creatures, makes it so versatile. Probably one of the best places to put it is in Marchesa the Black Rose. That deck is all about bringing creatures back if they die, but of course there are other decks like the New Chainer. You have similar Reanimator strategies where if you can get a bunch of creatures back, have them enter from the graveyard, you can end up dealing a ton of damage with Flayer. I think he's gained a little bit more popularity as of late because of his inclusion in Commander 2019, but I've always had an affinity for this kind of card. Similar to persist creatures like Glenalendra, there's just so much power. Number 3 is Gravecrawler. Talking about power, we have a lot of these creatures. You have Bloodghast, there's Nether Trader, these creatures that are capable of coming back, and you even have some that are even worse like Reassembling Skeleton but can still be a nuisance. Gravecrawler is perfect for not just zombie decks but for combo decks. All you need is another zombie. If you have another zombie out there, you can replay it from your graveyard for just the 1 black mana. So it's really in here for the danger of constantly bringing back a creature. If you have things like Phyrexian Altar and you have a Blood Artist or anything like that, it is very easy to just win the game. And I really like it because it fits in well even if you don't want to combo. Just having creature presence and having the utility of sacrificing a creature and then being able to bring it back makes it perfect fodder even if your deck isn't meant to combo. Just a brilliant little zombie gets the job done for a lot of strategies. And number 2 is maybe not the most powerful card on this list, but it's probably the most universally played, Faithless Looting. You just draw 2 cards and discard 2 cards. You can flash it back for 3 mana. Whether it's Spellslinger decks, whether it's graveyard decks, land decks, you see this card everywhere. 1 mana cantrips are typically found in blue, and if you do get card draw in red, it's usually going to cost you a couple cards that you have to discard. But that's okay. If you have a few cards in your hand or more, it's going to be well worth discarding them because the whole point of this card is to just dig deeper into your deck. So even though you're technically not gaining any card advantage off of this, you are synergizing with graveyards, you are digging deeper, hopefully getting to cards that will. And that's the whole point of the card. It's a cheap 1 mana the first time, and it's only 3 mana to do it again, making it probably one of the best value cards in red that you could include in any red deck, or just any deck if you're playing on a budget, or if you're not, it's still a good card. Just really hard to find another card on this list that sees as much play. But number 1 is purely on power, and that is Mikaeus the Unhallowed. This card is part of probably one of the more well-known combos in Commander. Mikaeus the Unhallowed and Triskelion. Other non-human creatures you control get +1/+1 and have Undying. He also has a condition where if a human deals damage to you, destroy it, which is very easy to overlook. But believe me, there are a ton of humans in Commander, so it's definitely worth paying attention. But just giving all of your non-humans +1/+1 and Undying is pretty powerful even if you're not going for the combos. You're likely to see him in decks that you would see Flayer of the Hatebound. It works out really well with the Dethrone from Marchesa, so you can end up getting creatures back even if they did have +1/+1 counters. But you also have some tribal synergy there as well if you like zombies, if you like clerics. A lot to love about this card. But anyway guys, that's going to do it for this video. Let me know what you think about Dark Ascension, good old middle set of the original Innistrad block. You all have a wonderful day. Void here signing off. See you next video. Just wanted to say thanks to the patrons who are supporting me on patreon.com. Go check it out. There are different tiers with their own rewards. One of them is having your name in the credits of my videos. I know it's not much, but it's something that I can do to show my appreciation. Thanks again and have a good day.